From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay.
It works best in a harvested bean field where you can count the rows.
One farmer's mission to get his message across, and it's really getting seen. ARC or PLC, and why movement on the Farm Bill may determine payments in 2019. And it's Election Day across the country. A look at what's at stake and why these midterm elections mean so much.
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Voters will decide the debate between Trump's take-no-prisoners politics and the Democratic Party's supercharged fight and the Republican monopoly in U.S. politics. Now, there are indications Democrats could take control of at least one chamber of Congress. But 2 years after an election that proved polls and prognosticators wrong, nothing is certain. In Texas, an Emerson battleground poll found incumbent GOP Senator Ted Cruz holding a slim advantage. With 50% of the support, his Democratic challenger, Representative Beto O'Rourke, has 47%. 2% are going to the polls today undecided. In Missouri, incumbent Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill and Republican challenger State Attorney General Josh Hawley are tied at 47% among likely voters. In Tennessee, GOP Representative Marsha Blackburn is in a close contest with Democrat Phil Bredsdon. The two separate polls showing the two are tied. And Florida GOP Governor Rick Scott leading incumbent Democratic Senator Bill Nelson. The results from St. Pete poll give Scott a lead of 49% to 47%, but 3% are undecided. While he's not on the ballot, the president has acknowledged these midterms represent a referendum on his presidency, and a new Farm Journal poll survey says most farmers and ranchers believe he's doing a good job. 55% of the nearly 1,500 people polled say they have a favorable view of President Trump. That's up 4 points from when the same survey was taken back in August. But that strengthening support does not appear to come from recent success on the trade front. Only 30% said their opinion of President Trump is more favorable since the trade war started. 36% said their opinion is now less favorable. Overall confidence in the president may pay off at the polls today, at least in rural areas. 55% said their sentiment toward Mr. Trump will impact their voting decisions, quote, a lot. After the election, Congress is expected to resume work on the Farm Bill during the lame duck session. However, whether it's an extension, new bill, or nothing may have a big impact on crop insurance and safety net payments in 2019. AgDay's Betsy Gibbon joins us now. And Betsy, there's a lot at stake here.
That's right, Clinton. If farmers have a destroyed crop, they may not be able to collect Trump tariff aid payments because those are based on this year's crop, which hurts farmers impacted by hurricanes, flooding, and drought. Fast forward to next year, if there's no farm bill, crop insurance and safety net payment amounts may be changed on top of possible trade uncertainty. Fields are turning into lakes for Crescent, Iowa farmer Mike Schraub. His land adjacent to the Missouri flooded. Crop insurance adjusters are trying to help.
He told me just to get whatever I can get.
Schraub will not be able to collect the government's Trump tariff aid payments if his crop zeroes out. The 2018 crop is covered in the 2014 Farm Bill, but the future of ARC and PLC safety net programs are in limbo.
If there's an extension of the current bill, they would be funded just like they are now. Now, if the bill runs out and there is no new bill or there is no extension, then crops planted after 2018 would not be funded or covered until there is a new law.
The problem with keeping business as usual, ARC payments are drifting lower as prices trend down. Crop insurance specialists say that was exactly what ARC was designed to do, based on how it was written.
In the first few years, you could see the potential for higher payments there, and based on where the commodity markets were at the time, you could see a better potential for payment on a county ARC program versus where you could on a PLC program. As these prices have deteriorated or eroded here over the last several years, the highest ARC payments available are slowly coming down, so where now PLC is becoming more of an option.
Schraub continuing to see lower payments on the acres enrolled in ARC.
I did pretty good the first year or two, and then we haven't received payment for, God, 3-4 years now.
Insiders on Capitol Hill telling AgDay if there is an extension, Congress would likely make it an option for 2019 producers to choose either ARC or PLC.
So past history would suggest the legislation might include the opportunity for producers to change from the ARC County program, for example, to the PLC program, but that'll have to depend on the exact language that's in the extension bill.
In the meantime, Schropp attempts to harvest wet fields, tallying up losses and hoping 2018 won't repeat itself.
If there is an extension of the Farm Bill, there are almost 40 programs which will be orphaned or will go without any type of funding.
All right, Betsy, thanks. China's President Xi Jinping is promising to lower tariffs and import more from overseas. The president said that at the start of the China International Import Expo. The U.S. did not send an official delegation to the fair. Xi says the expo shows China's desire to support global free trade. President Xi and President Trump will meet at the G20 summit in Argentina later this month. President Trump remaining optimistic that a deal can be reached with China.
President Xi and I have agreed to meet at the G20. We'll be having dinner and we'll be discussing it. But I think a very good deal will be made with China. They want to make it very badly. We want to make a deal if we can. And a lot of progress has been made. A lot of progress.
Reuters reporting Monday that the value of export orders to the United States signed at the trade fair is down 30%. Higher U.S. import tariffs are making goods costlier. New crop progress numbers show the harvest is still coming in. 76% of the corn crop is now in. That's just a tick below the 5-year average. Soybeans, even better, 83% now harvested, 6 points below the 5-year average. Cotton, it's about half done. 49% is harvested, but only 33% of the crop is reported as good to excellent. Both Texas and Georgia seeing very poor conditions. As for winter wheat, it's now 84% planted, down 6% from previous years, and 70% of the crop has now emerged. Brazilian soybean planting is speeding ahead. A good mix of rain and dry spells continuing to help soybean planting soar ahead there. AgRule reports 60% of the Brazilian bean crop is now planted. That's well ahead of 43% last year. It's noted that harvest could begin as soon as the second half of December. Scientists from universities in Maine and Michigan are getting a boost from the federal government in researching weed management on organic farms. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is providing almost $2 million for the scientists looking at weed control. Organic farms use a more limited scope of weed management tools than conventional farms, and the weeds are a threat to crops and profitability. One researcher proposes using a cultural weed management method. It focuses on depleting the reserve of weed seeds in soil. Sometimes it takes multiple generations to bring in the harvest, as meteorologist Cindy Clausen shows us. Today's crop comments. Cindy?
Thanks, Clinton. Well, we all know farming is a family affair, and this picture pretty much sums that up. It's from Levi Lecoq in Hinsdale, Montana. Levi says, in this picture, you see 4 generations at the end of harvest time. Levi says his little ones, who are twins, are going to be the 6th generation. Well, let's take a look at how things are shaping up for our wind forecast today. And boy, we are starting off with some pretty breezy conditions, especially over in the far eastern Corn Belt, eastern parts of the Great Lakes, stemming all the way back into the northern plains. We do have a frontal system there, and we're going to see windy conditions through the day, especially in those eastern lakes. As we get into Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, notice it's especially the northeastern quadrant of the country. Through the day on Wednesday, we see those winds continuing in the northeastern part of the country. A lot of the rest of the country not seeing winds too bad as we head through the next 24 to 36 hours. We'll have your national forecast coming up, but first, here are some hometown temps.
Plan for the unexpected with weather forecast updates. Local forecasts are delivered right to your cell phone each morning, making planning a little bit easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
Trade impacts on grain flows are changing how basis works in parts of the country. We'll talk about why basis prices may start to strengthen soon. That's at the Agribusiness Desk coming up next, and later, making a political statement one field at a time. In agribusiness, are the hopeful signs of ending the trade war with China still affecting commodities? Let's see how things closed from the floor of the CME in Chicago.
Today's soybeans were mixed. We're on hold right now waiting for new news. We've got the election coming up tomorrow and everyone's really moving to the sideline. What about the crop data? Yields are going to be coming in. There's big numbers headed our way, as well as Brazil planting. They're a little bit ahead of schedule. They're ready to set a record for their beans for next year. All that is going to weigh heavily on our markets, but without the election, without knowing exactly which way we're going to go, it's very difficult to determine how this market can push forward. Corn was firm today as well. I mean, technical supports really were pushing that market up. We've had some decent exports, and we're hoping to offset that incoming harvest. We're at a 2-week high that we haven't seen in quite a while, so that's kind of nice. That's all from the floor at the CME Group. Here in Chicago, I'm Virginia McGathy.
Matt Bennett with Bennett Consulting, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk today. Matt, as we talk about selling the crop for 2018, you know, obviously we look at the futures board, but there's also what you can sell it for with the cash price. What have we seen as far as movement there?
Well, the interesting thing, you know, last week, 2 weeks ago, we saw basis moves in our area at the local processor, 20 cents overnight that they improved. They went from 20 under to option price. And so for the week, we were actually down as far as futures prices were concerned, but the cash price of corn was up at the end of the week. So, yeah, we always get wrapped up pretty heavily in futures prices. But we tell producers, especially with what you've got on the farm at home, if you can manage basis adequately, you can win the game.
Yeah. Whenever you talk about managing basis, what do you like as far as strategies go to being able to manage that cost?
Well, typically a grain elevator, you know, in the middle of the harvest, they want to buy as much corn as they possibly can. And we know why, because the basis is quite wide. And so they will sell the carry in the market, and then they'll wait on the processor to want the corn more than what they do at the time. Now, I know people get upset. Why is their basis so wide? Well, their basis is so wide because they ran out of room. It's because they're piling on the ground, because they're putting it in bags. That's not stuff that the elevator necessarily wants to do. They do want to get ownership of the corn, but it's a little bit more costly. They get ownership of the corn at a wide basis level, though. It gives them a great opportunity to make money no matter what the futures market does.
Sure.
If the basis gets better, they're going to put money in their pocket, and we've already seen the basis get quite a bit better.
Yeah. As we're watching the flow of grain, and we expect that to really start to, I mean, we expect it to start to kick up here as we get into winter, how does that basis tend to move?
You know, overall, it should get better.
Okay.
You know, but you're going to see a lot of corn move at different times, especially the first of the year. And so typically the basis might not get a whole lot better. Why have we seen it get so much better in my part of the world here in the last week to 10 days? Because guys are getting done with harvest.
Sure.
There's not a whole lot of cash corn to buy. And so they've already made that decision. Am I going to sell or am I going to store? If it's in the elevator, I've already paid my minimum. So that 20-cent minimum doesn't mean a whole lot just because they raise their basis 20 cents. And so bottom line is, as we go along, basis should get better, but it's not going to be straight up by any means.
All right, well, it's something to watch, something to manage. Appreciate it, Matt. Thank you for being here. We'll be back with more AgDay. Just a minute.
For advice on the best way to be profitable on your farm, contact Matt at 217-273-1133. Join Andrew McRae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
Welcome back to AgDay, here with meteorologist Cindy Clausen on this midterm election day. Cindy, kind of a messy map out here for people to deal with.
Absolutely, and if you're heading to the polls as we head out the door this morning, you might need an umbrella in parts of the eastern part of the country. Let's take a look. Yeah, we've got some messy weather, especially up towards the Great Lakes, and you can see this cold front that's going to be moving through the eastern part of the country. So we're going to see some wet weather there. Notice the colder air behind here, so we're going to be seeing some wintry precipitation in parts of Minnesota, even to Wisconsin, North Dakota, and of course some higher elevation snows in parts of the west as well. Let's put this into motion. You can see where everything's going, and that is east. We're going to be seeing wet conditions through the eastern seaboard as we head through the day today. We'll still see some straggling rain showers, especially in the Great Lakes area. Notice the colder air coming in, so some of that snow mixing in or changing over to snow, that's going to be spreading to the east. A lot of the nation's midsection on the dry side, even though we do have kind of an active weather map here. As we head through the overnight hours, we'll see everything continuing to move off to the east, another front coming into the western parts of the lakes, and maybe some showers along the Gulf Coast states into parts of Arkansas as well, but pretty scattered, a little bit fewer and far between there. And through the day on Wednesday, we see again some scattered shower activity in the southeast, some snows in the mountain west, but starting to quiet down at least a little bit for a short period of time in much of the nation's midsection. Here's a look at your precipitation estimate, and we're going to be seeing that rain continuing for especially the eastern part of the country. Some of that in the northern stretches is going to be in the form of snow. And here's a look at the snowfall estimated as we head into the next 24 hours. A lot of the snow will be more so in the mountains, but we're going to see a little bit in parts of the upper Midwest and into the northern plains. Boy, the temperatures, big difference between north and south. You got 29 in Bismarck, you've got 87 in Brownsville, so you got a good 60-degree difference from north to south, and it's going to continue that way for a few days. Heading into the overnight hours, we see low temperatures in the 20s, maybe even teens in some spots. Rapid City there with a low of 17, while we're 77 in Miami and Brownsville. So big differences from north to south. Continuing into tomorrow as well, with highs only in the 20s and 30s in parts of the north central United States. We've got some 50s and 60s in parts of the Ohio and Tennessee Valley, still some 80s around the Gulf Coast. Well, here's what's going on. We've got this trough in the north central United States. That's what's bringing that really cold air. We still have some warm air, though, to the south. And then as we get into the next several days, we still see kind of a trough and another one digging in as we get towards the weekend. And look at this. Early next week, we see one really digging in to parts of the northeastern United States and a big ridge developing out in the west. That's a look at the national forecast. Now let's check out the weather where you live. Powell, Wyoming, mostly cloudy with scattered snow showers today and a high of 35 degrees. Phillips, Wisconsin, rain and snow showers for you with a high of 40. And then Parkersburg, West Virginia, some morning showers, maybe a rumble of thunder, high of 66.
Still ahead, a big loss to a dairy business after a massive fire, but this isn't the first time this farm has seen devastation. And political messages come in all shapes and sizes. We'll show you how one farmer is getting his views heard in the country. Happening this week, a big event for the dairy industry. The annual Milk Business Conference is going on. It's taking place again this year in Las Vegas. One of the key issues on the minds of dairy producers, the new dairy insurance program. There are also changing dynamics in the dairy industry, and those changes are creating unique challenges for dairy farmers across the country. Look for reports from the conference coming up this week on AgDay. A New York State dairy lost more than 100 cows in this fire that burned 2 barns. What makes it worse, this is the second devastating fire in the past 6 years at this location. The fire happened last week near Ellenburg Center. That's not far from the Canadian border. People were able to rescue about 45 cows. The cause of the fire is under investigation. A previous fire at the same location in 2012 killed 110 heifers. That was sparked by an electrical panel near a silo. How do you get your views across? One man gets on his tractor, gets to work, and his message is really getting seen. Next in the country.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota's full line of field-proven hay tools. Explore the full lineup at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Lots of red states are in the middle of what's sometimes called flyover country. Airline travelers going from coast to coast are used to seeing fields of sunflowers and wheat. Now, a creative North Dakotan is giving people with window seats something else to think about. Cliff Naylor reports.
When Gene Hansen has something to say, he lets his tractor do the talking.
I'm trying to send a message.
Gene carves his words of wisdom out of farm fields.
It works best in a harvested bean field where you can count the rows.
When spelling out what's on his mind, he doesn't need to be guided by GPS satellites. Gene tapes slogans to the hood of his tractor and just cranks them out.
I'm eyeballing it.
Mistakes can't be tilled over because the letters he sculpts are 40 rows wide.
If you let your disc down too soon or not soon enough, why, you screw up the whole thing, and sometimes when you're almost done, you got to move to another part of the field and start all over again.
Folks who fly over at 20 or 30,000 feet have no trouble figuring out where Gene is coming from.
I've always been conservative.
You don't have to buy a plane ticket to read his work.
I normally put everything on Facebook.
One of Gene's verses even caught the attention of the President of the United States.
Trump has commented on the We Stand for the National Anthem.
Other political prognostications include finish the wall and Trump Nobel Peace Prize.
I think Trump has done a good job for our country, and I look forward to voting for him again in 2020.
With a canvas as big as the prairie, you can bet Gene will have a lot more to say before the next election. I'm Cliff Naylor, reporting for Ag Day.
All right, thanks, Cliff. Now, Gene Hansen has created 30 field phrases in the past 15 years. He says it takes about an hour for him to finish each verse. So no matter your politics, we hope you'll get out and vote this election cycle. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. For all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.